Hello, everyone. This is Susan Rosen, your host, and my guest today is Dr. Angela Zen.
You got that right.
Okay,
Yay.
it took me a minute to remember. Sorry about that. And she's got some very interesting background and how she's come to do what she's doing. And I'm going to let her introduce herself like I usually do. So, welcome, Angela, and tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Thank you, Susan. I so grateful for this opportunity to be able to share my story and the wisdom I inherited from my culture with your audience. Obviously, I'm in this age group too, so I'm not like those crazy young entrepreneurs in the beverage industry. They just want to be on Shark Tank and get super famous and rich one day, right? That was never my intention. So a little bit about myself.
Yeah,
My name is Angela Zeng. You got that last name pretty well. So I call myself a purposely displaced scientist. So I actually have years of medical research training. I came to this country about 30 years ago to pursue my PhD education in pathology. And after that, I also worked as a postdoc fellow at Northwestern University Medical Center for years, cancer. But my true passion has always lies in my family heritage, which is the traditional Chinese medicine. I have a couple family members, well-known scholars. One is study acupuncture using modern neuroscience. The other, my aunt, she was specialized in women's health and herbal remedies, all those things. Fascinating. I would say healing arts that we inherit. I say without those wisdom, the wisdom is one make us in this age group while we age, right? We feel much better compared to the young people running around us. Because of the wisdom we accumulate, we inherit. I would say without those healing arts, not just limit in the Far East, like Asian country, but also all around the world, the humanity won't exist until today. Think about in the old days, without fancy diagnosis tools, even like a simple device now these days, we can measure blood pressure, blood sugar level, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not to mention X-ray, all those fancy tests we can do now these days. In the old days, how would our ancestor know what's going on inside our body? But somehow we mastered that. We mastered that because of the mindfulness. And because of that mindfulness actually leads me to this path. I would say about 7 years ago, I started my own beverage line, Carviva Wellness Beverage. Well, you will say, why? You're scientist, you're a successful scientist. Why you want to do this? Well, I think first, I'm an entrepreneur. I always have this entrepreneur spirit in me. But one thing is, I'm also a mom. Back then, I had my kids pretty late. When they were little, I always want to feed them something healthy, but not my herbal remedy. I do that every day, almost routinely for myself. But my kids, obviously they want something fun. They want something sweet. They want juices. They want all the smoothie drinks out there. And most, unfortunately, I couldn't find one that I was happy with feeding them. So basically one thing is I start to think about how could I make my traditional remedy that tastes great, that's even good for little kids. I don't have to try to feed them, like, remember the old days, like peas or broccoli, you have to try 20 something times. Like, yucky, don't want to touch it. You have to hit it somewhere and be creative to have them eat.
Yeah.
This I have to, my determination back then is they have to say, Mom, I want you to make that smoothie for me. Instead of going to, you know, that smoothie shop or pick up, back then naked
Yeah.
smoothie was everywhere, very high sugar. I remember the berry and the mango smoothie has almost 60 grams of sugar, just one
Oh
bottle.
my God.
Little
Yeah.
growing bottle, I mean, that's more than a can of Coke, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have the habits drinking soda, but that's not much better. So that's why I started to experimenting. For me, is always that spirit of, you know, there's a solution. I want to come up. I mean, there's a problem. I want to come up with a solution.
Hmm.
And also my friends also want me to share kind of my remedy with them,
Uh-huh.
because many remedies really works. Whether you
Hmm.
have a headache, stomach ache, you know, that's why I started this line, and just keeps growing. I would say it's
Uh-huh.
not easy for scientists to be a business woman. I think my mentality still, you know, got caught in the science world. I'm still very curious, constantly want to innovate. On the other
Hmm.
side, in the business side, they want to focus more on the green thing, you know, ching ching. So to me, it's more about the customers we're serving. You know,
Uh-huh.
started from my own family, now, you know, River customers. I care very much about.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, I'm sure. I'm sure. So how did you get to the point of developing the one that you're selling now? I mean, because I'm
Yeah,
sure it wasn't like, oh, all of a sudden you came up with a recipe and
yeah. That is
boom, it's
That's
you
a great
know.
question, because even now these days I have friends or young folks
Uh-huh.
asking me, I got this fantastic tea recipe from my grandma
Ah.
and I want to sell them in store. Well, there are several things you have to overcome. You know, first is you have this, like I had the remedy recipes I use, for example, for treating spring allergy, for cold and flu symptoms, especially, you know, for kids when they just start to have running nose. I don't want to feed them Tylenol, those kind of stuff. I want to give something herbal,
Mm-hmm.
medicinal
Yeah.
food based. It cured them right away. So basically, but you know, those things may not be suitable for production in a factory
Mm.
setting. It's perfect for you to
Ah.
brew them in your kitchen. So you have to find that out. So actually, I took quite some training with food science
Uh-huh.
program. So I went to a university, North Carolina State University. They have a huge food science
Ah.
department, and they work closely with FDA. So I went there. I did a training online. I did a training in person. Try to understand what are the requirements. You know, I want to respect all the regulation there, because they're there
Mm-hmm.
for a reason.
Yeah.
And then the second is you have to figure out all the nitty gritty details most entrepreneurs don't enjoy in terms of related with production. And the final stuff is, you know, how do you sell it? That has become more and more challenging now these days, because there are so many different channels you can make the products available. E-commerce, Amazon, Walmart, there's so many of them. You can sell them on your own website, and
Mm-hmm.
you obviously you want to sell them in store, but getting into store, you know, usually I started with local Whole Foods store first, and I was
Okay.
lucky enough. That was back in 2017.
Oh wow. Okay.
Before they were acquired by Amazon,
Oh.
they were really promoting local suppliers, local
Yes.
grow, local owned. They were really open-minded to innovative products. So
Uh-huh.
I got a chance. They allowed me to try to give me a fantastic shelf space placement.
Uh-huh.
Um, and when after Amazon acquired things actually got, you know, I'm just speaking the truth, things got changed.
Yeah.
But I'm
No
hoping
no
they're changing
question.
back a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's how the past worked for me. I think I
Mm-hmm.
heard different story for different entrepreneurs. Some started just lucky
Yeah.
with backup from maybe from their past business. like
Mm-hmm.
VC firms, they work in the past. I didn't have that kind of money support. So everything has to be bootstrapped. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, interesting, interesting. So tell me a little bit more about the actual, how you came up with what's in the drink and the formula or whatever recipe
Yeah.
that you have for it, and what is it about the drink that really helps people,
Yeah.
and in what ways?
Yeah. I think again, each of my Carviva formulation, I came up those formulation based on
Uh-huh.
just my knowledge in the
Yeah.
holistic medicine space. And also
Mhm.
because of medical research training, I always research each ingredient, why they work, not
Right.
just because everyone says so.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
We were talking
Yes.
about, Susan, we were talking
Yeah.
about all those diet trends now these days. And one dangerous things, especially for people in our group, I would say the wise group,
Mm.
we need to be extremely careful to follow those trends, right? Because our body at this stage, we have experienced so much.
Mhm.
But other thing is we really have to tune in, listen to what our body wants, how our body connect with nature surroundings, which is a big, big thing. So for me, for example, the most recent innovation I came up with is this wine replacement remedy,
Mm.
Carriba Unwind. And I developed that because myself, well, I'm aging now, I'm already in my 50s, early 50s. But when I was young, I could go out, socialize with my friends, have a glass or two glasses of red wine. I would be happy, feeling good. Not now. First thing I noticed, it upset my stomach right away. And then
Ah,
obviously, next day I won't feel good if I
yeah.
want to get up in early in the morning and then be energized and manage my
Yeah,
things
no, not
again.
happening. Yeah.
So I mean, but so when I went out, I become, especially for those events, everyone hold a glass of something, and I
Yeah.
have this glass of water or cranberry juice, which I don't know, I like it some that much. So I'm like, well, I'm going to come up with something for myself first, which is good for the health and also tastes like a wine, but
Hmm.
is not like a de-alcoholized wine, is a remedy that's actually good for our brain, our liver, and the heart. Because one thing about
Mm.
alcohol is if we consume daily, eventually it's
Yeah.
going to damage the neurons
Yeah.
here, is going to
Yeah.
not be good for especially for our liver, right? Liver and
Yeah.
kidney. So I come up this new product based on a remedy has been used for thousands of years for detoxifying like our liver, brain, all
Mm.
those
Okay.
things. But I had to do lots of, tweaking just by experimenting to make the
Hmm.
taste almost
Yeah, I'm
mimic
sure.
like a dark red wine, which was really
Ah,
hard. But I
yeah, I
was just
bet.
say, so just back in the old days, when I was a PhD student, my mentor always asked me to repeat my experience. Like, I'm not saying hundreds of times, but many times. So I was trained to have that kind of patience. It's almost like
Uh-huh.
you bake your cupcake once, you threw it away, you bake it another 10 times just to make sure it's right. I'm like, okay. So I got that. I got that habit. So, it's just through this kind of tweaking. So I would say it's a combination of justifying the taste has to be good,
Hmm.
because you don't want it to taste like a medicine or cough
Right. Yeah,
syrup.
exactly.
On the other
Exactly.
side, you want it to serve for health benefits. And I want that
Hmm.
health benefits to be legit,
Yeah.
based on thousands of years uses.
Hmm.
And then the key ingredient needs to have some scientific research behind it.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. So is it in a can? Is it in a bottle? Is it
Right
a
now, it's in a
mix or
bottle because I
okay.
have a small production facility. The reason
Uh-huh.
I had to be crazy enough to build my facility, two reasons. First, because of my scientific background, I kind of
Uh-huh.
like machine those kind of things because I was studying why people get sick at molecular and cell level. So using those super powerful, super expensive, fancy microscope, I had to deal with those. Like even I had to find ways to inject molecules, compounds into single cells.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I figured out if I could manage that, I could come up with some unique way to produce my product. The second thing is because my formulation was so unique back then when I started, I couldn't find any packaging
I'm sure.
firms willing to manufacture my products because they were saying one key ingredient I use is bean sprouts. Because the sprouts are so compact with nutrients, anti-inflammatory compounds. Yeah, that's when the seeds itself is very nutrient dense, right? Already.
Okay.
We all know that. Seeds are very nutrient dense because that's where the life coming from. It will come up, it will become a whole plant.
Okay.
When you germinate that at an early stage, it's just packed with so lots of inactive compounds in that seeds becomes active. So they have lots of natural enzyme, and then some of the stuff in the seeds may not be so good for your body. They turn into actually more bioactive. They become actually very beneficial for our health. That's why I like bean sprouts. We also use broccoli sprouts, which is super, super healthy. Lots of lots of clinical study to show is the compounds is actually even anti-cancer.
Right.
Well, so that's why, I had to build my own facility because no one wanted to handle sprouts as a raw ingredient.
Yeah, right. I can just see the look on their faces.
It's
You want
packed
me to
with
use what?
nutrients and water. That means bacteria also like them. That means for FDA, you're in the red zone. When you deal with sprouts, that's why when you go to the store, you see sprouts are so pricey because it's really hard to store them. And most of the sprouts, unfortunately, we purchase from store, they have to put some preservatives on them. Otherwise, then they turn back really quick. So for me, the only way to have access to freshly grown, chemical-free ingredient is I had to do it myself. We have a little hydroponic farm in our little facility.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Crazy enough.
Close to where you're manufacturing the drink, right? So that you don't have to
you harvest at the same, there's no transportation involved whatsoever.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. Because that could cause all kinds of problems. Yeah. Interesting. So what other than sprouts, what else is, are you using in your drink, and what have you found that it particularly helps people with?
Yeah, I would say one ingredient, there are so many ingredients I especially love. I would say aronia berry is such an underrated super berry.
Which one?
Because
Sorry, say that again.
aronia berry, also called chokeberry. They're
Oh,
tiny
chokeberry.
little
Okay.
dark blue, almost as dark as like a black color. But you can find it in the Midwest. You can find it in your backyard. And actually the local farmers, we got huge
I'm kidding. Yeah.
I know we got huge cornfields, here. And so the farmers actually don't like them. They think they're weeds. Well, here's the beauty about aronia berry, because lots of, things. I'm sure many of your audience also heard about dandelion, how wonderful dandelions for our health. And it's considered a weed. Aronia berry, unfortunately, also considered as aggressive weeds. So lots of farmers would actually hire people to take them out because you don't need pesticides, you don't need fertilizer. They grow wonderfully. And guess what? The native Indians use it as a medicinal food. They use it to treat many of these problems. They use it to make jams. They use it just for cooking. The wild berry itself tastes very astringent and sour. That's why, the industry has no interest in it because, unless they do something like they did to blueberry to make it chubby and sweet, people don't like it. right?
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
our taste bud is not like birds. Birds love them. But there probably, when I research it, there are hundreds, if not thousands of research studies to show it's anti-cancer. It treats diabetic complications.
Wow. Huh.
It treats hypertension. It helps to lower cholesterol. It helps with allergy issue. That was actually the detox juice was the first one I was working on when I first developed my product line. And I know this because I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. So this
Hmm.
is the place we are famous for spring allergy because the air kind of, the pollen just gets
Ah,
in, they can't get
yeah.
out. And then
Interesting. Okay.
I spent more than a year, no joking, working on that formulation to make it taste right because the two key ingredients are bean sprouts, mung bean sprouts, and the royal berry. Neither of them taste that great. So for me,
No.
it's like how to make it right. What other, superfruits,
Yeah.
healthy
What can
stuff
you
I can
add
put
in? Yeah.
in to make it taste right. That my kids drink it every morning because they
Oh my
know that's
God.
their secret weapon against like even COVID, seriously, right?
Oh no, I'm
So,
sure. Yeah.
so for me, it's like after half a year, I noticed because I constantly just drink them myself, right? That spring back in 2016, I had no spring allergy. I was like telling my friends, wow, we are getting so much better with spring allergy this year. They say, what are you saying? It's horrible. I'm like, well, I don't know what happened. And I just started to notice. And then, once I roll out that product, I heard from people. I had one lady in her early 30s back then. She told me, she actually told one of my brand ambassador, this drink saved my life. I'm like, gosh, I'm not your surgeon. How did it save your life? She said, you don't know. I had this nasal deformation since I was born. So I suffered this horrible allergy since I was little. I had been on antibiotic daily, which made her
Wow.
super,
Oh my
super, this will
God.
destroy her health. And also she had
Yeah.
surgery just to fix that. She said, since I had on your drink, I didn't need my antibiotic anymore. So I
Good.
was like, well, don't thank me, thank Mother Nature,
Hmm.
right? Basically,
Yeah.
it's just this is how our ancestors learned to heal our body when we were not feeling well. Do we? I mean, we cannot think in the old days somehow human just never had issues like we have now these days. We have, but not, just we have ways to treat them, alleviate the pain and the
Yeah.
suffering we had.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and people back then didn't live as long either.
Yes, yes.
You
One
know.
thing about in the ancient days, especially if you go back to the caveman age, uh, the major cause of death is because of infection. So,
Mm.
because I come from the medical research field, I'm not against the modern medical science. I think it's there for a great reason. It prolonged our lifespan. It saves people's life, and it gives people better life quality. However, the traditional wisdom are there for us to prevent we getting sick. And also, if you detect a disease early on, you can totally reverse that by changing your lifestyle. I'm sure people
Okay.
should. I give you an example. Hypertension, which is really common
Mm-hmm.
everywhere
Mm-hmm.
in the world now, especially in our age group, right?
Yeah.
Hypertension. So in the traditional Chinese medicine, there's no such term hypertension.
Mm.
Well, guess what? How do we measure blood pressure in the old days? We can't. So what it instead we say is because there's a blockage somewhere in our body. So here's the
Ah,
thing.
yeah.
We view our head as the
Mm-hmm.
most young spot. So we have the yin and yang, right?
Right.
So the
Uh-huh.
most young, all the vital chi would go up to our head.
Okay.
And you think about based on the modern medical science, the blood supply to our brain is essential.
Mm-hmm.
Our heart works really hard to pumping the blood to our brain to support all the activities inside this little territory. I mean, even though it's a small part of our body weight, however, it consumes almost 30% of the energy. that
Wow.
our body
Yeah.
needs.
No, it makes sense.
So what happened is, let's say, I use two examples. If we have high lipids level, high cholesterol, right? Our blood vessels start to get not dirty. Think about a pipe clotted with, junk glue from overcooking whatever things in your kitchen. Guess what? Well, you can call the rooter, clean the pipe. In our blood vessel, you have those things, especially when we age, right? Unless you eat super clean, super healthy, do everything right, most of us would have something. So that causes resistance to the flow. So guess what? Our body naturally has to increase this tension to make the blood so go up to support our head. Otherwise, you won't have enough. It's almost like you live on the top of the floor of this high-rise building. If the water pressure is not high enough, you have no water supply.
Yeah.
So we have this hypertension issue. Think about this blockage. So if you know this wisdom early enough, instead of taking the hypertension, those beta blocker, all those things, because one big difference about modern medicine and traditional Chinese medicine is modern medicine, we block everything. We cut it out. There's a tumor, we cut it out. There's something not working, the pain, we block it. There's a hypertension, we block it. Instead of blocking everything, the Chinese traditional medicine or many holistic medicine will say, let's find where is that blockage. Let's unblock that.
Yeah.
So
what
let's
can we
say
do?
if your blood vessel got something junk or things, but you know this early enough, you unblock that, right? Then you don't need the hypertension treatment medicine, which obviously, any medicine has side effects. Even herbal remedy can have side effects too. I'm not saying they don't, but however is by this wisdom that knowing ourselves, and there's ways, like traditional Chinese medicine would feel your pulse, right? Like they do this. You see this on probably videos or whatever. And it's a whole science because this is like they detect how your heart works, how your blood works, what your body try to do. They will say, oh, your right hand pulse is stronger than your left side. That tells something. If your left side, they are different. You can feel yourself. They're different. You can feel it here too. It tells you what your body try to do. And then they would feel your abs. Like, you go to do your physical exam, they feel your abs too. But there's a special way they want to see, how your internal organ work. Yeah, and then there are lots of things, I'm sure we hear about acupuncture, pressure point massage, all those things actually used to do several things, or two things. Unblock, and then after you unblock the blockage, you stimulate the circulation, stimulate the qi flow.
Okay. Yeah.
So when I design a formulation, I always keep that in mind.
Okay.
For example, aronia berry is packed with natural compounds to unblock. That's why it's so effective, because all those dark pigments and other things in the aronia berry, they are very strong anti-inflammatory. Like inflammation is a natural response. When we have a cut on our finger, we have natural inflammation. However, when we have chronic inflammation in our body, which everyone has now these days, it could be around your joints, it could be inside your blood vessel, it could be in our organ like liver. If we indulge ourselves with wine and whiskey and cupcake.
I did when I was younger, but not quite so much now.
Exactly. So what aronia berry does and the mung bean sprouts, they do this to unblock that. Then I have complement ingredient. For example, I have kiwi, wine grapes. I have I also use mango, those goji berry, dates to help you to stimulate this circulation. Like lots of spice, for example, hot pepper, ginger, turmeric, they have the anti-inflammatory compound. They also have this stimulating property. They actually help, our blood and circulation, our qi circulation move again. Think about if you have a pound of water not moving, right? If you have a fish tank, you don't change the water every day. You don't have the circulation. Guess what? That water becomes super toxic. So water can become super toxic when there's no movement. Whereas you have a river, you have a pond, you have a fish tank, has constant circulation, it's lively, it's live. Yeah. So I think especially for our age group, we need to understand that. I always tell our customers, our friends that listen to your body. What your body try to tell you. Don't listen to what other people tell you. Oh, this is for example, keto is the one to do. Keto diet.
Yeah.
Keto diet. I don't know whether keto diet might be good for me, might not be good for you. I experienced myself with keto diet. It was horrible. It put on more weight on me and it increased my blood lipid level right away. Even though I try to be healthy, be mindful with keto diet, but oh gosh, I think it again, I'm not trashing it, but for someone else who was eating tons of processed carbohydrate like white noodles, cakes, bread, when they started keto diet, they dramatically reduced their simple carb intake. The simple carb is definitely not good for you. Complex carb is wonderful for us, is essential for our spring energy. Traditional Chinese medicine, that means for our digestive system, which supports the overall health. Yeah. People don't realize that if we cannot digest food, it doesn't matter. You can spend $100 buy the most healthy
that's true,
broccoli from this whatever beyond Whole Food store. If you cannot digest that, it becomes a burden. Same thing. You can spend a few $100 on fancy supplements. If your body cannot absorb that, it becomes a burden to your liver, to your kidney. People don't realize that. Fix your digestive system. And then the other thing we talk about traditional Chinese medicine is this obsession with longevity. The longevity is about preserve, be really gentle to our digestive system so it can work longer. So if you look at the health of someone in their 80s, even 90s, two things you can look at. If they still have good appetite, they don't have to eat too much. They're supposed not to eat like a huge meal, like when they're young, have growing body. However, they should still have some appetite. The second thing is if they can still think independently, right? If they can do these two things, there's a high likelihood they're blessed by God. They probably can live another quite a few years. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Absolutely. Wow. Whew. So much information.
No, I can
love
talk
it.
days about, because this is beyond thousands of years. I think, because I love to read food heritage history. The fascinating thing is many of the things is beyond what we can trace back in terms of human developed ways to document things. They find in ancient Egypt, people start to use herbal remedies beyond they could even document things on the rock. And another good example I give you beyond the Far East region is around Iceland. The locals, they just had these habits they hunt reindeers, our lovely, beloved reindeers. But, that's their food source. They hunt reindeers, but one thing they actually eat, you will think that's disgusting, is that particular fat behind the reindeer eyeballs. It's like, like sometimes we joke about, Chinese like the fish eyeball. I still don't know why. We do the whole fish, right? Steam the whole fish. And then there are people just like that fish eyeball. I'm like, I don't want to be nasty, but I don't know why. But for this tradition in Iceland region, it's because that fat tissue behind the eyeball, the retinal, is packed with fat-soluble vitamin C. You probably only heard about
Interesting.
water-soluble vitamin C. You know, if you go
Yeah.
to your local pharmacy store, you get your supplements. That's
Right.
water-soluble vitamin C. Most of the vitamin C in foods like your orange, berries, veggies, water-soluble. In this reindeer, in this fat tissue, is highly concentrated vitamin C, and is
Wow.
fat soluble. It bioavailability, that means the ability our body can utilize it, is few thousand times stronger than the water soluble vitamin C. And that particular region, you think about that, because it's so cold, they don't have many veggies and fruits. So their food
Right.
source are heavily relied on, you know, this reindeer,
Yeah.
which is all
Yeah. No.
animal meat, which
Yeah.
has no
Whatever's
vitamin
there,
C.
whatever's there, right? That's what
Yeah,
they have to
but
eat. Yeah.
they are not vitamin C deficient. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, it's that those kinds of things just totally fascinate me about how different places are different, and you know, different people have different histories and all of that.
Oh yeah.
So it's yeah. Humans are we can be really horrible to each other, but we are very good at figuring out how to stay alive, you know. I
That's
mean,
in our
over all
gene.
these,
We need to
yeah,
survive, and we want to pass
yeah,
our gene generations by generations.
absolutely, yeah, very much so. So in this last few minutes, we've only got about 5 minutes left. Um, tell me about, you know, where do you sell your drink and how can people get it, and you know, all of that kind of stuff.
Yes. Thank you, Suzanne, for your
Hmm.
asking me this. So, like I said, I'm here. I just love to share what I learned over the years and from my
Yeah.
ancestors with everyone, because
Yep.
I think sharing knowledge is what we do when we age,
That's why I do this
right? But
podcast.
so
There you
I also
go.
want to share the product. I mean,
Yeah.
each product I say packed with wisdom from my heritage and the love we want to pass on to everyone. You can, if you live in Missouri, it's pretty much in all the stores here. You know, we have Schnucks, we have Deerbergs, we have many local stores.
Okay.
And we
But
are
some of
also
us
in
don't
East
live
Coast.
there.
I know. We are also in East Coast, like Stop and Shop, Giant Foods, Giant Martin, those stores. In Texas,
Okay.
we're in HEB. We are not really nationwide, but you can find our products on Amazon, Walmart, e-commerce on their website.
Okay.
And so
That's where I
that's the
have to
way,
go.
you know, if you don't live in those region.
No, sorry. I
And
live in California.
oh, you have the best weather.
Well, sometimes we used to. Now it's like either pouring rain or you know, then it gets a little nicer, but yeah. But anyways, we don't need to talk about the weather. But anyways, so okay, so
And
that's
I
good.
will
So I
send
can
you
look.
a special coupon code for your audience. And obviously,
Okay.
Suzanne, I will send you some drinks for you to try as my
Oh,
little gifts to thank you.
well, thank you. That'd be great. That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. And so
Yeah.
with that, then I will say that just to wrap up, neither of us are doctors officially.
No,
And this
I
is
don't call
not
myself, I
medical
usually don't
advice.
like to call myself doctor. I have a doctor degree, but I say the doctor should be only for those people who have healing heart and healing hands.
Well, you
Well,
have
in
that.
certain way you are. I think one thing about doctor now these days, I think they still probably train them in medical school,
Mm-hmm.
is this, you know, why you want to be a medical doctor, right?
Mm.
I think that's one thing. I mean, I mean, my kids are now 17 and 14 now. I mean, one
Ah,
thing I'm always about is, you know, what you do has to have an impact on people around you. And the
Mhm.
people around you can be 2 people, can be 10 people, can be 10,000 people. However, it needs to have a positive impact.
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
now these days, I mean, especially in this culture now these days, you know, for example, we have so many influencers on social media. They all think about promoting products to make money. I
Yeah.
think money, if you think about this, is money coming from Mother Nature. Unfortunately,
Mm.
you know, we can't grow money on a tree in our garden, but we can grow so many things, beautiful things there,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's those things actually are plenty for us to live a healthy, reasonable life. The
Mhm.
money are developed, actually, it's almost like human develop money as a, I call it a flow. It's like keep things flowing. We talk about when things don't flow,
Mhm.
it become deadly or toxic.
Yeah.
Because what happened in the ancient day is like, say, if my specialty is grow bean sprouts, and
Mhm.
Susan, your specialty is raise chicken, and you sell, I can get freshly hand, you know, like chicken eggs from you.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I'm going to give you my bean sprouts. You love
Yeah.
my bean sprouts, and I can get a dozen of egg from you. So
Right.
we exchange this way, but
Mhm.
then we find humans are so smart. So like say, well, this become too complex. I was like, well, I want a dozen eggs, and Susan will say, then I need 10 pounds of bean sprouts. I said, no, only 5 pounds. So how do we make sure it's fair? We got this money currency thing, you know, in the old days was
Yeah.
whatever special
That's right.
stove or shell or whatever. Now
Yeah.
is whatever things we say is money,
It's the
but it
same.
keeps things flowing,
Mhm.
right? I mean, so you can use this good energy. I say you can use your good vital energy to
Yeah.
produce something amazingly positive, which is why humans keep evolving, or you can make
Mhm.
something super disastering and damaging.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people do that too,
Yes,
unfortunately.
I know. That's why actually our age group has, I would say, even more responsibility
Mm.
to educate the
Mm.
world, to educate the young people that don't caught on only by listening to 1 minute or 10 seconds. They're saying only 3 seconds now, attention span on the
I
TikTok,
know.
and then draw this big conclusion and decide to do something dramatically.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's the world has changed a lot, certainly in my lifetime.
Yes.
So, yep. But anyways, okay. So thank you again for being on. I really appreciate so much good
No, thank you for
information
this
and
opportunity.
yeah. And again, this is not to be seen as medical advice. Neither of us are doctors.
Yes.
And with that, I will see everybody else next week.